to listen in English. Probably there is a code in the YouTube chat, or there is a link you can click and you can go to another YouTube channel where you're going to be able to watch the presentations in English. So from now on, we are going to have it in English and Portuguese. And that's the part we have the startup pitches. Today we're going to have two startups, Towny and Nanos. We are going to start here with Sasha from Nanos, Sasha Scriber. The presentation is going to be redesigning how business advertise online. And it's an interesting use case where you have an AI assistant that can help you with your marketing budget, can help you allocate the best way to allocate your money, can recommend which social media should you invest. So it's a very interesting use case of artificial intelligence in marketing and advertising. And then following Sasha, we're going to have Regina Burgmeier, project manager from Towny AI, in detecting human emotions. It's also a very interesting case of using artificial intelligence. In this case, is using video in real time for detecting human emotions and detecting the sentiment that the person has based on the emotions in real time. So we're going to have this two pitches. It's going to be about 7 to 10 minutes each pitch. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can have the pitches here. So we have Sasha.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sasha Schreiber, and I'm online. You should be able to see me in a second.
Yes, you can see you.
Okay, and I'm also sharing my screen at the same time.
Perfect.
Very good.
We can see.
You can see my screen. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
It's perfect.
So, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be invited to AI conference in Brazil. In fact, Brazil was one of our test markets for our product because there are lots of small businesses who need our technology, who are craving to be visible online, but don't have enough marketing knowledge, big budgets to spend in order to really quickly and easily come up with a marketing strategy and create and place advertisements about their business. So just a few words about myself. You should just let me know if you can hear me well and see me well and see my presentation well, just to make sure that I'm not talking to the void. This is very frustrating, can be very frustrating.
No, we listen well, Sasha.
Good. So I'm a co-founder and the CEO of Nanos AI, Nanos.ai. I ran a couple of companies in the past, all related to technology. I'm also a former Walt Disney Company employee. I used to run an innovation team within Disney Research, and we are still working in a collaboration with Swiss Federal Institute of Technology at TH Zurich. And my background is somehow very broad. So you can see it's coming from math, because I was from a very young age very passionate about math, but also finance and law, which now helps me in creating and running startups. I also own a bunch of patents in different types of technology, including augmented virtual reality, but also in pre-visualization and online marketing technology. Also have a couple of publications. If you're keen to see those, you can quickly find those obviously online nowadays. You can find everything online. Hopefully lots of small businesses from Brazil very soon as well. So today I will be talking about Nanos. And Nanos is a tool, a white label tool for e-commerce. So imagine you run a marketing agency and you have lots of clients who have very small budgets, and you're keen to help them, but you can't possibly hire so many human resources, so many marketers to run those campaigns for them. And if you look at the process of online visibility in a holistic way, it is three very distinct pillars. One is ad creation. So it means you need designers, you need to think where to advertise, what kind of ads you need to build. Then it is a process of placement, placing those ads across multiple platforms, maybe Google, maybe Facebook, but maybe also other new platforms that are now coming out. And then it's continuous optimization. So it actually rarely works that if you create an ad for your business and it works immediately. Usually you have to have it tested for a couple of weeks at least, test different creatives, different designs, different wordings, but also, of course, on the other end, your product has to be good and has to have the right pricing, and your website should be also good in order for your advertisements to be successful. So this is what Nano stands for. We provide technology for small businesses to very easily to create and place online advertisements on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. So anybody without marketing knowledge, without technical background, design background, without big budgets can very quickly and easily place ads in any language or coming from any industry, all in one very simple and intuitive interface. So we have already really successful cases, and some of those cases actually are coming from Brazil, from e-commerce and retail stores. Of course, now with the pandemic, many businesses, actually most of the businesses had to relocate online. And this is something that, of course, was a very right moment in time for Nanos, when we suddenly realized that what I've been working on for 3 years with my former Disney colleagues, when we decided to leave a very large corporation and embark into a new adventure and create a tool that would help millions of businesses to be more visible online. So these are some of the cases you see here. People would invest $5, $7 and sell an apartment, or they would invest $50, $60 and have their business running and getting very significant return on the investment with very small investments, as you can see here. Let me see. There's a couple of more cases from automotive industry, also from real estate, and other cases. Restaurants have been also very successful when advertising through Nanos. We have clients from everywhere in the world, starting from Dubai and Asia and other Asian countries, but also in Switzerland, of course, where is our home country, and other countries in Europe and in Latin America. So why our customers choose Nanos? Because they can place all in one interface, multiple platforms, and they can create advertisements very easily, supported by AI suggestions. So our technology runs on all those 3 pillars I have been talking before. So we support our clients on the ad creation part. So we suggest them best creatives for their ads. We suggest them where to advertise, how much money to spend, and of course we then optimize the ads, and we are very transparent. So for us, it's very important that we don't show don't tell it's a magic in a box, but it's really, we show each and every step that AI has taken in order to optimize the campaigns. And at the same time, we don't dominate. We don't say, okay, we take everything over with AI, because AI is not there yet to really compete with the human when it comes to marketing. In some areas, yes, but not everywhere. We are far from being having fully automated online marketing. So again, minimum budget is very small. You can advertise starting from $5 per day per platform. And we also continuously optimize the budget between the platforms. If your ad is not performing today on Facebook, we would reshuffle the budget onto Google, and this process is happening without any human interaction. So this is, of course, very valuable if you would like to save some money on hiring marketing consultants, if you can have AI taking care of this very simple task that could be automated. And then, of course, there's all-in-one dashboard and reports how AI has been managing your campaigns. So this is how the solution looks like. It's very simple on the phone, or of course on a laptop. You choose which language you want to use Nanos. Now it's available in 8 languages already, including Portuguese. And you choose the platform, and this is how the reports would look like. And then here you see the interface. Let me see if I can collapse the... I don't know if you see fully my screen. So this is how the interface looks like. Enter your website, enter what kind of products you plan to advertise, what is your targeting, whom you're planning to reach, and what kind of gender, age, what kind of ages, what countries. You can advertise in multiple countries. You can advertise in a very local radius. Let's say I want to target London, zip code such and such, and we will be targeting right there all your neighbors if you want to. And here you would choose where to advertise, which platforms. We would suggest you the platforms to advertise on, what kind of campaign you would like traffic campaign or conversion campaign, meaning bring me as many people as you want, as you can for this $5, and then we would do our best. Or say, give me people who potentially most likely to buy my product, and then of course we would try to optimize for conversions. So that's the difference. And here we would use AI to give suggestions for your ad, text, slogans, and AI suggestions work really well in English. I'm not sure about Portuguese and other languages yet, but for English, we can say sometimes suggestions are really, really cool. Other languages, we still don't have enough data. Of course, as you know, machine learning is only working if you have data. If you don't have data, you, of course, can try to make magic and miracles, but it usually never works. So same goes with Facebook and also with Instagram. As you see, interface is really simple. My grandma could place an ad on Nanos and use Nanos to advertise her flower shop if she wanted to. And this is what we always have been holding on to. We really want to make it simple because we feel advertising should be really, really simplified, because nowadays so many businesses need it. It's time to make it simple. It's time to make it also cheaper than going to an agency, for instance, or also cheaper for agencies that they don't have to really do so much manual work anymore. So this is what Nanos stands for, is for simplification of online business, lowering the entry barrier for all businesses worldwide, making sure that they're successful, and we bring a little bit of technology into the game, of course, as much as we can, thanks to our connections at the Federal Institute of Technology. Students work in almost all of our products, all of our product features as well. And yeah, this is pretty much what Nanos is all about. We are now 15 people. And we actually have 2 software developers from Brazil who work with us from the day one. So the country is almost a home country for us, and we hear a lot of good things about Brazil each time we talk to them on our team calls.
Thank you, Sasha. It's a very interesting use case, and good to hear your story that you have some customers in Brazil. And
yes,
also
we do. Yeah. We're happy to have more. Yeah.
Retail is a very big area here, and we have big players coming, like Amazon is now here. We have Mercado Livre, who is a Latin America company. Retail is it's big in Brazil, especially after the pandemic. So and it's good to see that you have 2 Brazilians in the team.
Yes, yeah. One lives in Passo Fundo. I never heard about this city before, and but now we know a lot about Passo Fundo. Sometimes see pictures we share on Slack, and yeah, it's like I said, Brazil was test market for us at the very early stage, because people are so eager to learn about new technologies. It's not the same case, for instance, in Switzerland or in Germany. So this was why we choose Brazil, and Portuguese was the second language we have introduced at Nanos. After English, it was not German, even though that would be probably obvious from a company coming from Switzerland, but it was actually Portuguese language, because we felt there is so much potential in your country.
Great, Sasha. Sasha, hope to see you here in Brazil sometime. Thanks for your pitch.
If it would be up to me, I would be on the flight already.
All the best, Sasha. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco.
Good luck.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Bye. And then we have Regina here online. Regina.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, I'm glad everything went well. Okay, Regina, thank you for joining us. And
thank you for having me.
I gave a quick introduction of your company and what you are doing with facial recognition and sentiment analysis and so on. So the pitch is all yours. You can tell what's the solution, how you're using artificial intelligence, Regina.
Okay, perfect. So just give me a sign if you can see my screen and if you can hear me loud enough.
Perfect. We see your screen well, and I can hear you very well, Regina.
Okay, so hello again. My name is Regina and I'm from Munich. I'm from a Munich-based startup called Toni, like you can read here. And we are the deep tech company founded in 2017, measuring human emotions at the speed and scale of AI and provide emotional insights like never before. So emotion matter. They are the core of human experience, shape our lives in the profoundest of ways, and trigger our decisions and social behavior. We at Tawny are a tech provider that understands humans. For that, all we need is just a camera, and we can recognize facial expressions in real time to classify emotions faster, cheaper, location independent, fully transparent, easy to use, and at scale. So we can be used multimodal, user-centric, and can be accessed easily via an API. We make emotion analytics accessible for everyone by creating the Tawny emotion platform to measure unbiased emotion data. So you can see it here on the left side, it's the user, and the user sees the video from the right side. So we can not just measure emotional data, we also measure vital data and the stress levels. We want to understand consumers' emotions. With our huge emotion repository and scientific proven AI algorithms made in Europe, we also developed the so-called life emotions. It's this, to bring back the human factor to events like here. It's all GDPR compliant and privacy by design. So we can analyze you sitting in front of the PC screen. Special thing, you just stream emotions while the camera is only activated locally. So you can see it here. The stream is just the emojis, and yeah, your camera would be activated locally. And so you can say something about the events, like how is the atmosphere at the event, how is the keynote, how is like a speech from me, is it better in the morning or is it better in the afternoon? Do people get everything what you tell like you want? This is our life emotions. But well, nowadays all is driving for more optimization and personalization. All should be digital, smart. But what about empathy? So imagine a world where products, services, and also your environment know how you feel and are not emotional dump like today. So here you see the levels of emotional intelligence of machines. At the moment, we are between 2 and 3, but there's the level 0. It's the emotional dump products like a calculator. Perhaps you know level 1 with the so-called Tamagotchi. It was in the 80s. It's a simulated AI. And partial AI, like in the automotive industry, when the smart coffee appears in the screen and says, please make a break. So if we want to go to level 3 and or between 3 and 4, that's the big question. But at the moment, we're just between 2 and level 3. So our ambition is to build a living environment, live and work hand in hand with machines, where smart things are adapting to human emotions and affective states to be more efficient, comfortable, healthy, and safe. This leads me to my last point, because we add the empathic layer to your enterprise tech solutions. We are Tawny Insight and can be applied in many different scenarios and industries, whether it is the customer service, the workplace, the automotive industry, or media and entertainment. We customize and implement emotion AI to your settings. We are ready to build a human-centered world of tomorrow with you today. We as the European pioneer in the field of emotion AI. So now it's just up to you. Don't hesitate to contact me, and let's start your emotion AI journey with Tawny. We are already proudly trusted by the best. So use our platform, the real-time feedback application for virtual events, or most importantly, use our Ready API to simply connect your systems to our technology, because we want to be your tech provider. So yeah, relatively short, but this was everything from me and all about Tawny. But if you have questions, just feel free.
This is very good, Regina, and people sometimes don't realize how much the emotions are important. Well, I used to work at IBM, and we had the Watson, and the sentiment analysis was one of the applications that we had higher utilization, but was test sentiment analysis, was not through facial recognition, facial feedback. So something in
Totally.
real time through facial feedback, it's very interesting to see. Okay.
Yes, I think so too.
This is great, Regina. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks
It's
for
a
having
pleasure.
me.
It's great to have you here in the AI event. Good luck with your solution. Very interesting use case.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Let me share my screen again here so that we can continue with the event. Team, we are in the AI experience. Let me do a few comments here before we have our next speaker. First, it's important to understand why we believe AI is going to transform the world. And we see the impact of AI in about everything we do. Today, we interact with AI even if we don't realize it's AI, but it's recommending the movies we watch in Netflix, the videos we watch in YouTube, the musics we listen in Spotify, and affecting the way we drive with Waze, the pets we follow, the food we eat, the Uber we ask. So all of this has AI built in. So it's embedded in our life today. And when we talk about AI, it's important to understand the whole ecosystem, because typically AI is associated with other technology. There would not be self-driving cars without AI. So it's pretty connected. If you look about Internet of Things, Internet of Things is the sensors that help train AI, but on the other hand, without a layer of intelligence, what could we do with billions of signals from sensors? So all this technology like big data, robotics, Internet of Things, neuro implants, self-driving cars, all those ecosystem helps drive AI and also benefit from AI. So it's something that it's happened anyway. Who we are as i2AI, we are an association, a non-profit association that helps foster the use of artificial intelligence in Brazil. We realize there is great potential, and it's important for Brazil to be relevant on this fourth wave or fourth industrial revolution. And today, among other things, we are helping with the Brazilian strategy for artificial intelligence called EBIA, Estratégia Brasileira de Inteligência Artificial. We are proud that we are members of the committee that is helping do the details for the strategy. And we are helping to lead one of the axles, the axle number 2, that talks about AI governance. So this is very good. We are also part of an initiative with Embrapa and MCTI that has some funds available for finance some innovations using AI. So this is our mission. We are in the core of this complex ecosystems. We are connecting enterprises, large, small enterprises, startups, the academia, universities, and everything else, government, research funds, technology firms, professionals looking. So we are all part of this ecosystems. We are helping connect the ecosystem. We provide a number of different services, from executive education, and here there are education that is tailored for managers, executive, C-level persons, education customized and developed by i2AI. We have been helping with the strategic digital transformation. This is normally has a lot of use case for artificial intelligence, from robot process automation, including a number of other things. So we help our clients with digital transformation, we are able to develop experience, and here can be customized experiences. If you have a small group and you want to do a workshop, or if you want to do something related with artificial intelligence, we can help with that. We have some research group, and we help connect the academia with the companies, with the industry. We also develop knowledge and content, and we share this knowledge and content. This event is an example of what we do here to help promote the use of artificial intelligence. So these are a few of the things that we can do as an association to help the ecosystem. Here's the team that we have. The team, we have the CEO, Alexandre. Many of these folks, you probably interacted with them through this week. Fernando was the host yesterday. Andressa have been here with us back and forth. So it's a very small team, and we have also some committees that we do. I'm responsible for the innovation committee, but we have today 8 committees. We have one that works on privacy, ethics, and governance. We have one that promotes use of artificial intelligence in health, in case examples like the one we had today. We have a machine learning committee, so we have several committees like this. I'm gonna jump to our host. I think we have Hubert have joined us, and I'm gonna jump to our host, and then I can finish talking about HVI. But we should have now online Hubert Peroshi, and he's the founder of Urban AI, and he's going to be pitching to us. It's time to urbanize AI. I was doing some research on their site and found very interesting, because I've been studying artificial intelligence, and I did a presentation. Some of you may have watched the presentation 2 or 3 months ago, and I found that there is a lot of, they portray themselves as a think tank on urban AI, and there was a very interesting use case, and I even downloaded the PDF with your example, the 60-day trip you did and the 12 or 13 countries that you visit, and I was not aware of it. I did a lot of research a few months ago on AI, and I missed this one, so it was a very positive surprise for me when I watched what you do, and I was able to download the PDF on your site. So Hubert, I'll pass it to you so that you can talk about what Urban AI does and give us a better understanding of maybe some of the use cases where we are having AI in the cities.
Thanks a lot, Marco, for this presentation and for the invitation. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be with you today. So yes, indeed, I'm going to present you Urban AI, and more specifically the concept of urbanized artificial intelligence, and why I believe it's more than ever important to urbanize artificial intelligence. So I'm going to share my screen first. Can you see my screen? Okay, great.
Just put on the presentation mode, but we can see it. Yes, now it's perfect.
Perfect. So as you told it, Marco, actually it started with a Smart City World Tour that I did 2 years ago, when it was still possible to travel all around the world before the COVID crisis. And the goal of this project was to go in different regions and countries from all around the world, and to understand how AI can be used to create sustainable cities. So if you want, it was a kind of learning expedition with a smart city focus and even a urban AI focus. So in figures, during this world tour, I met 130 stakeholders, and it was very diverse organizations. So big companies like Cisco, IBM, Microsoft, and even Google, startup cities like the city of Amsterdam, of Dubai, of New York, of Boston, and many others, and of course, universities like the MIT, Stanford, etc. So in total, 12 cities were explored. Well, exactly 40, but the two other ones are not very famous. So let's say 12 cities, mainly based in Europe, in North America, and in Asia. And to be honest, there is, of course, a lot of smart cities around the world, and that are not only in this region, but I decided to go in these cities because first, they are seen as smart, and you will see that I don't really like this term, but let's say that they are smart, and also they have a very strong AI ecosystem. And when you use those two criteria, actually you only have like 20 cities that are going to appear. And the goal of this world tour was to understand how AI is transforming our cities. And to answer these questions, I have three kind of targets, three kind of goals. The first one was to understand what is artificial intelligence, what is this buzzword that we see everywhere, every time for years. And to answer this question, I met specialists like Joshua Bengio, who is the father of deep learning in Montreal, Luc Julia, who is the co-author of Siri in San Francisco, etc., etc. The second question I wanted to answer is what can we do with AI in a urban context? And to answer this question, I met mainly private companies, cities, and academics. And this is actually what you saw in the report, Marco, all these case studies where you can see like we can use AI for smart building, for smart mobility, for smart traffic, etc., etc. And the last question, which is probably the most important, is how can city use AI and remain a city? It means how can we use AI and remain a urban space with frictions, with meetings, with freedom, etc., etc. What is very interesting is that during this project, the name of this project was Smart World. So I was really inside of the smart city mythology. But during this world tour, I gradually understood that something is wrong with the concept of smart city, and even that we are in front of a global failure, which is this concept of smart city. So if you want, all around the world, like in Songdo, in Mazda, even in Europe, in Toronto, you have smart city projects that are failing. And when you see this, this is quite surprising because you can see on a technical level, even on an economical and sometimes social level, that this is quite interesting as a project. And a good example is Sidewalk Lab Toronto, which was really amazing on several points of view. But in the meantime, people reject massively these projects. And why they reject this project, I firmly believe this is because when we use artificial intelligence in some specific context, you are going to desurbanize cities. So what does it mean concretely? It means that you are going to atrophy some fundamental urban features. A city is something very special. This is not just a place with people, with buildings. This is something very special for several reasons. This is a space owned by people. This is a space where you will have diversity. You know, this is what Jane Jacob, a famous urbanist, used to say. You are going to find strangers. If you don't find strangers near you, you are not in a city. If you have strangers near you, you are in a city. So you have this kind of cosmopolitanism, this kind of diversity. You also have freedom, you know, like city are lands of freedom. This is also where you are going to have new positions, to have opportunities, to become sometimes entrepreneurs, etc., etc. And sometimes artificial intelligence and other technologies are going to atrophy this fundamental qualities. We are going to create surveillance cities. We are going to create closed systems, etc. And in each of these cases, you no longer have, we could say, a city. And this is how I discovered, in a way, the concept of urban artificial intelligence. So we coined this concept in a report called Urban AI. This is the report you were talking about, Marco. This is a report that we co-authored with 12 contributors from all around the world, people like Saskia Sassen, Luc Julia, Michael Batty, and many others. And also in another book called The Notebook of the Chair that I did with La Sorbonne. And now I will try to be a bit more concrete and to explain you what it means concretely to urbanize artificial intelligence and why it is so important. So first example is going to be about data governance. I told you that probably one of the first features, fundamental features of cities, is that it is owned by people. It is a kind of common ground for generations. If a city is not owned by people, if it's private, this is no longer a city. This is maybe a building, this is maybe a private neighborhood, this is maybe a dictatorship, but this is not a city. So first thing is that this is owned by people. And this is something that we sometimes forget when we want to implement new technologies on urban territory. So this is a perfect example is what happened with Sidewalk Labs. It was a very great project, but people and citizens reject it in parts for data governance reasons, because they didn't know where are going their data. Can they see their, and you know that urban data are very, very specific, because you have a lot of different stakeholders that are around urban data. You have private companies, you have also, of course, the citizens that are going to create this data or to be sometimes the data. You have the cities, etc. And when you want to atrophy this complexity and that you want to own completely this data, exactly as if you would like to own completely a city or a territory, it cannot work. It's not possible. So first lesson I would say when we are talking about cities and urbanized technologies is that you have to keep in mind that cities are owned by people, and therefore urban technologies and urban data must be owned by people, or at least, because it's not always possible for understandable reasons, at least that you have a social contract around these technologies. To give you a very good example, when I went in Boston, I met Nigel Jacob, who is now part of our scientific committee. So Nigel Jacob is the director of, if you want, the Civic Innovation Office of the City of New York. And they did an amazing project called Go Boston 2030. The goal of this project was to gather several stakeholders around the table. So of course, citizens, but also academics like the MIT, Harvard, and other institutions, startups, big companies like the Boston Consulting Group, and other organizations. And together with all these people, they try to answer one question: which kind of mobility do I want for 2030? And they try to answer this question, and it's very interesting because around the table you have different interests, and sometimes even I would say opposite interests. A startup that is doing autonomous vehicles are not going to answer this question the same way that parents that bring his children to school every morning than the city. So at this moment, you have to find a common solution. You have to find in a way a kind of social contract around this question. And really, I encourage you to see what happened and what were the results of this experiment, because you see that people don't want level 4 or level 5 autonomous vehicle, don't want some thing that's sometime between us we find hyper important, relevant, interesting. They want their children to be safe. They want less air pollution. They want smoother traffic, etc. So this is very elementary things that we sometimes can forget. And another example, well, this is quite famous. This is called La Charte des Données Numériques. So this is a great project did by the City of Montreal. You can check it on internet. And another one that I didn't put on this slide presentation is the Register of Artificial Intelligence. This is a project did by the City of Amsterdam and Helsinki. This is really interesting. They tried, and actually this is what they are doing. They are they launched a platform called Register of AI, and in this platform they put all the artificial intelligences that they are using, and they also try to answer questions and to give answers to citizens. So which kind of AI is it? What are the risks, etc. And I think that this is a first step to make AI more understandable, and then to allow people to own this technology and not to be owned by it. So first example, this is really about data governance, and this is about this concept of social contracts. Another example, quite interesting, is about sensors. So what you have in this image are 4 photos of different sensors that are very, very powerful. So you have a camera. On the left, you have a noise sensors that can give you a lot of insights. And we also have beacon, and of course, maybe you don't know it, but maybe you know it, a credit card, which is one of the most amazing sensors that we have built with a smartphone. So all these sensors are going to give important information and behavioral data to several organizations. And these organizations are going to use this data to create a kind of frictionless experience. You know, then you are on your smartphone and you are going to interact with the rest of the city, with the rest of the world, only with your smartphone. So here you have 2 things that are not very good, I would say. First, this is about these sensors. These sensors are fundamentally an anti-urban object. They are completely closed, they are invisible, and you know that when you have something that is invisible, this is very near a surveillance tool. This is what explained Michel Foucault in his book Surveiller et Punir, when he explained you with the example of the panopticon, that in a way the perfect surveillance system is something that sees you and that you don't see. And this is exactly what is happening. And I would say that is even worse, because you don't know what is seeing you, who is seeing you, and for why they are seeing you. So you are no longer in a kind of open urban space, but in a closed system where you are an object instead of being a subject. So this is the first reason why it's not a good thing. And the second one is about the fact that you are going to interact with the city through a smartphone. And for several reasons, of course, it's not a good thing. You know, like you are going to move in the city exactly as you are going to move in a software or in an application in a smartphone. So what from this issue, from this problem, we worked on what we call sensible interfaces with partners. So with the city of Nantes, with the city of Nice, and with the French Institute of Design. And we asked students to reverse this paradigm. We asked students to replace sensors by interfaces. And what the difference is not that you are no longer collecting data, because interfaces can in a way collecting data. The main difference is that in an interface, you are going to show the data, and you are going to make this data sensible through visual, noise, smell. You will be able to sense the data. And this is very interesting for 2 reasons. First, because you no longer have this panopticon relationship between an invisible surveillance tool, a sensors, an invisible sensor, and a human being. You have an interaction between a human being and an object. So this is really, you create frictions, you create openness. So this is very important. And the second thing is that it's not only important because people can see the data, and in this way they are no longer in a kind of Big Brother city. It's also very interesting on an economic point of view, because you are able to create augmented environments. If you unveil data, if you display information around people, they can decide to have better decision about the traffic, about the quality of the water. So this is actually what is on this slide. You can see bubble that have been designed by students, and each bubble represents a data concerning a river very near Nantes. So you can see the density of the water, the rate of greenhouse emission, etc., etc. So this is very interesting. And actually, some companies in France, like SNCF, have this in mind because they did some experiments with the MIT Sensible City Lab about this idea of sensible interfaces. So second thing I would say, this is this time about sensors, and instead of having invisible sensors that create surveillance relationship, try to have more like sensible interfaces that create interactions, that create openness and give you information to your city and your environment. And so we've discussed quickly about data governance, about sensors, and so in a way about IoT, and now we are going to discuss about algorithms. You know, something that is quite wrong with how algorithms are designed when in urban context is that this is always to create a kind of echo chamber. And this is, of course, more than ever true on the digital world, you know, like on Facebook, on Amazon, etc. But actually, it becomes also true in the physical world. A very good example is Google Maps, where when you want to go to a point A to a point B, we are going to show you an optimized itinerary. And it means that before you had a kind of lot of opportunities, you have the possibility to explore yourself the city, to walk in the city, and now this is no longer the case. You have a narrow sidewalk, you have just an itinerary that you have to follow. So you are closing a lot of opportunities, and you are going back to this idea of a closed system. Just to give you an example, it would be completely possible to use the same algorithms with another interface. And for example, this is what is on the right of your screen. You have a French think tank called Derive that propose an application, and they don't show you an itinerary, they only show you a direction. It means that you have the direction, so it augments your environment, it allows you to find your destination, but just as a cue. Then you have to create your own path on the city. So you see, you're not a kind of children where we show you the direction. You have the liberty with what it means behind, so maybe you are going to be loose. And this is what we call at Urban AI wandering algorithms. You know, the fact that we are going to create frictions, we are going to help you to wander. And wandering.
Recording stopped.
Oh, hello.
Recording in progress.
No.
I think we're okay, Hubert. You can continue.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So I was saying that this is what we call wandering algorithm, and the principle of the wandering algorithms is really to tackle the logical of echo chamber. For example, you are going to find this logical of echo chamber on Facebook. You know what's doing Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Amazon, all those platforms that are going to collect data on you. Then they are going to identify your profile, and then they are going to show you content that you should like, that you should appreciate. And of course, this is wrong because you are enclosed in yourself. You have no longer the possibility to evolve. You have no longer the possibility to meet other people. And in addition to this, in a way, it's toxical. You know, like you have a kind of dependence relation with this kind of platform for several reasons. What we say is, let's take inspiration from city. You know, in city you wander, and by wandering you meet other people, you discover other shops, and sometimes other books, other ideas, etc. Well, you create opportunities, and we could imagine that we could have the same logical on Facebook or at least on other digital platforms, you know, algorithms that are going to create frictions, that are going to show you sometimes, not always, people that you don't agree with, video that you don't like, idea that you don't share. And this is important because it allows you to evolve as a human being, as a society, and as a species. So this is an example of urbanized technologies. And I think what is important with this concept, first, it's that this is not a fixed concept. This is something that is going to evolve exactly as a city, which is a living organism. And this is really like a work that you always have to do. You know, you are going to implement a technology in a city. You have to keep in mind if it's going to atrophy this city, if it's going to desurbanize this city, or if you can amplify human speech, if you can create ecological tool, if you can create open, decentralized technologies that are owned by people. We try to summarize all these ideas in a call called Call to Urbanize Technology. This is something that we did with the Urban AI community and several members of our scientific committee. And so what is interesting first is that if you agree with it, you can sign it. We already have more than 150 signatories, and this is really amazing people like Saskia Sassen, Sandy Pentland, Nigel Jacob, and many other great people. And also this is Creative Commons. And as it's Creative Commons, in a way it's open and decentralized because you can use it, work on it, and you can add urban features, and you can add a definition of urbanized technologies. For example, we say that technologies have to be open because cities are open system, and you could add something else or precise something else. So yes, that's mainly what I wanted to share with you today. If you want to join the call, you have the link. And if you want to join Urban AI, or at least to have some information, you can send me an email.
No, that's great, Hubert. It's good to see. As I mentioned before, I did some research on the topic for an I2AI event. I presented on smart cities 3 months ago, and it was a recap because the term was 10 years old, and one of the first applications I worked with IBM was in Rio de Janeiro in 2010. So we were celebrating 10 years. And as I was reading how the concept evolved, there were many articles on how many smart cities failed. Like you said, in many cases, it was like a prototype for tech companies. It was not developed for the public as a user, but there was more of a technical exploration thing, and it's pretty aligned with what you showed here. So it's interesting to see.
Yes, that's really interesting. On our end, we no longer use the term of smart city for several reasons, and also because we believe that a city doesn't have to become smart. You know, a smartphone, a phone can be smart if you want. An iron can be smart. A car can be smart. But a city, this is something that is very complex, that is open, that is very complicated. So that's why we prefer to talk about urban technologies and urban AI, to say, you know, when you have a tool, when you have a technology, this is this technology that has to become urban, and not the urbanity that has to work like a software or like a hardware.
Yes, that's correct. There was also an evolution that they said toward a more environmental city. This was not the reality 10 years ago, but today there's this big ESG underlying everything, and we see many cases. So as the city evolved more into an ESG flavor, you probably observed that.
Yeah, completely. You're completely right. And one of the main issues that we have to keep in mind when we are talking about cities, of course, is climate change. Like, cities are responsible of 75% of our greenhouse emission. It's huge. So the fight against climate change is a urban fight. And of course,
please.
No, sorry.
There were all sorts of applications related with this, including the sensors, but like better use of water, littering systems dealing with this. So there was a whole new set of applications that were incorporated to the matrix.
Absolutely, and I would like to say maybe we can do better. You know, the most easy thing that we can do is to optimize the system, energy, water, etc. We can optimize it. In general, you will win 10, 20, or even 30% of efficiency if really you are very, very good. But you are never going to be better to do better than this. So this is why we recommend in our reports not only to optimize an existing system, but to use this amazing technology to reinvent the whole system and to reinvent sometimes how cities are conceived, how they are built, how they are used, etc.
You talked about making the sensors visible, and the fact that they are hidden have a kind of bad connotation, and there were some interesting examples that you showed. How do you see the new regulations related with to privacy? And do you think this could impact the smart cities movement? How do you see this thing? Surveillance is one of the topics, and there's a lot of debate about this today, right?
Yeah, you know, sensors are invisible sometimes for bad reasons because you know, like people want some organizations want to monitor people, but sometimes it's not necessarily for, in a way, good or bad reasons. This is just for financial reasons. You know, this is less expensive to build a small sensor, very efficient, than a big interface that are going to make the data visible. And here again, it means that when we are talking about cities, it's important to have economical points in mind, but not only. We also have to keep in mind social elements, geographical elements, etc., etc. And so this idea of sensible interfaces is really to make visible, to make sensible urban data, and to use this data to create link between people and the built environment, between generations. So this is something very, very important for us.
You mentioned the study, and you visited 12 cities. Some of them have a very different culture than others, and this smart city is related with culture. So how do you see this impacting what may be acceptable for one population may be completely unacceptable for others, and you have to deal with this, right?
You're completely right, and I think this is the whole point. You know, like we are selling a unique technology or a unique set of technologies while we have a lot of different cultures. I have an example that I really like about the web mining. You know, web mining is where you are going to collect data on digital platforms such as Twitter. And in Tokyo, Professor Yutaka Matsuo used web mining to prevent and to anticipate earthquakes. And when you have earthquake, to be able to react very quickly, you know, because he used semantic analysis. When you have an earthquake, people are going to tweet, and so you can see where if the earthquakes, what are the damages, etc., etc. In Amsterdam, the same technology, exactly also on Twitter, is going to be used for different reasons. Here in Amsterdam, they are using semantic analysis of web mining to understand people and to see how they feel about the built environment, if they need other infrastructures, other mobility, public transportation, etc., etc. What does it mean? It only means that when you have two different countries with two different contexts, political and geographical contexts, you can use the same technology very differently. And I think that we really have to keep it in mind, because sometimes we want to sell scalable technology that are going to be used in the same way all around the world, but that's not necessarily what is the best for people and for cities.
Yeah, this is a good point. I think the cultural difference will help shape whatever is applicable, and we may not have a unique response because of that. And another thing that I was realizing as I was looking for examples was that while there was a lot of adaptations to cities we live today with surrounding technology, especially in the other end, in China, there are a lot of new things being built from the ground. So it was a completely different concept of smart city. There was a Toyota Woven City as an example, but there were cities like using simulation, almost like a Sim City-like, using a digital twins, a very different concept, but the whole city was built in an area that it's a completely new area. It's a city that's going to be ready, I don't know, in 5 or 10 years. But it's a very different scenario in these two cases, like an adaptation on France with all the aspects of the city the way it is to a city built from the ground up, right? It's two different, completely different case.
You know, when you build a city with Sims people, it will be for Sims people. And unfortunately or fortunately, people are not Sims people. You know, like you are not just a kind of gamer, like moving like this. No, you are much more complex. This is the same with everything. When you are building a car-centric city, you are building a city for car and no longer for people. So this is very important to keep in mind, people, especially when you are talking about city and about AI technology. It's not always easy because, as you said it, we have a lot of machine learning technologies that can be used for simulation. And they are very powerful tools, you know, especially also in architecture. You can also use generative design to have several different forms. And this is very interesting on a financial point of view and also on a urban planning point of view. But here you still have a tool, and then you have to use an additional layer to add people in the debate. And this is, you can do it, you know, like I love this example of the MIT Sensible City Lab. They have a platform called Cityscope. So this is really a well advanced AI tool. And then this technology is used on a kind of sensible interface, I would mean, where people can play with the city, with Lego, and depending of how they design the city, that you will have like you will have different features. The algorithm, the platform is going to say, okay, so if you do this, you are going to add congestion here, you are going to reduce this amount of greenhouse emission, etc. So it also means that you can use AI to create debates, social contract, and co-build the city with people.
Yeah, I look at that, some of these examples as a kind of showcase for the art of possible. It may help you in a direction, but maybe in the most of the cities, there's going to be drawbacks that make it impossible for you to implement in the way it is described there. It's not built from scratch, right?
Yeah, and you also have another great example. So this one is not from me, but from a researcher called Ben Green. He wrote a book called The Smart Enough City. And in this book, he explained that during one of his research, a guy from the city of Boston met researchers. And these researchers have designed an amazing simulation in which you could see autonomous vehicles. And it was really, really amazing because, you know, you had no congestion, autonomous vehicles perfectly fit with the city, with the world, you had no accidents, so everything was perfect. And the guy from the city of Boston asked, okay, that's very interesting, that's perfect. On a mathematical point of view, this is great, but where are people? Where are people in this simulation? And this is a problem. If you removed people, and what is people? It means like the fact to wonder, liberty, erratic choices, etc. You no longer have a city. You have, as I told you, an algorithm or a software.
We keep receiving questions here, Roberto, and I think this is an interesting topic, relates with a lot of people. Maybe we can answer one or two more. And some of these topics you already touched. There is here, what is the future of urban AI? In your opinion, what are the main restrictions for such technology to have a broader usage? What are the key elements that should be considered in order to speed up the usage of AI and IoT in more cities? I think you've touched some of this, but maybe you have some additional comments on on these topics?
Yeah, so I think there is no one future of urban artificial intelligence. There is a lot of futures, at least as many futures as you have cities or people that want to embrace this innovation. And this is what we say, you know, like you have different culture, you have different regulation. So for sure, you will have different use of urban AI. Maybe in some cities with certain regulation, it will use with surveillance mind, you know, it will use to monitor people for credit score, for mechanical, to create mechanical city. This is not really new. Le Corbusier, in a way, wanted to create such a city. So maybe, and actually he described in one of his books an AI, and he said that such a tool would be amazing for him. And I think that you will also see other users of urban AI in Europe and even in Amsterdam and even in some neighborhood in Amsterdam and in Brazil, in Rio. So this is a complicated question, but what is really important to keep in mind is that you don't have one future of urban AI, you have as many future as you have people who want to use this technology for people.
Okay, thank you. And there is a question related with this, looking from the other aspect, is for an average citizen in a large city, in a developed country in the world, what we should expect in terms of his daily life in a smart city? What would radically change in the next 5 years, in your opinion? So looking from the population point of view, the user point of view, what do you see that would be radically different in 5 years?
So that's complicated because I cannot give you an average answer about an average country. You know, I don't know what is an average citizen in an average country. But well, for example, let's say in Europe, maybe you will have, let's hope, innovation that could help you to reduce your greenhouse emission, to see your carbon footprint. You know, using maps, for example, to have the best itinerary depending of what you want. If you want to use the fastest way, if you want the way that emits the less greenhouse emission, etc. So this is on a mobility point of view. Also, maybe you will have, I don't know if we will see autonomous vehicles, but at least electric vehicles that will also, you know, like transfer energy, like vehicle to grid, vehicle to building. And so it will be very interesting because we know that it's very complicated to store energy, and to store energy is important when we want to use smart grid. So maybe here AI is always very useful when you have a complicated problem. So in energy issues, in water management, in waste management, in all these questions, we will be able to optimize those systems and even maybe, I hope so, to change these systems. You know, you have a wonderful concept that from Carlos Moreno, which is a 15-minute city. And this concept is gaining traction from all around the world. And because people, this is actually human-centric city. And here, for example, AI could be used and is already used to help urban stakeholders building a 15-minute city.
Yeah, transportation is one of these areas that probably could suffer a big impact. Obviously, when we have self-driving cars, this should change a lot. But even before that, in the last mile, kind of smaller vehicles for moving a smaller number of people in the last mile. And also, as you mentioned, as we move to decentralized energy production with using wind and solar, and the grid and everything related with using the grid. I think these are probably two areas that we should see a lot of improvements in the next few years, right?
Yes, and so the building, you know, the building should be able to communicate with its environment, to become in a way like adaptable living. You know, this is what we call living architecture. We also in Urban AI Think Tank, we just published a great article about the programmable infrastructure. So how you make a rigid infrastructure something that become more adaptable to its environment. But here again, it depends of what you want to create. We were talking about self-driving car. In a way, self-driving car is not complicated. You know, if in a car in a city you remove everyone and you create a city for self-driving cars, it will be easy. But when it begins complicated, if you want to integrate such a car in a complex, erratic urban area, and here I'm not sure we'll be able to have
this. I think it's one of the main challenges of the self-driving car, and having it work in the United States is one thing. Then you pick in this car that learned to drive itself in US in a very large lane with no bikes, no motorcycles, and you bring it to Brazil in a very small lane with motorcycles passing by all over the world. I think, or you go to Peru or India, each city is so different that I don't know how you'd be able to train the technology with such differences. Just highlight how the problem is complex.
Exactly, and even in the US, which is mainly a car-centric, I wouldn't say country, but at least who have a lot of car-centric cities, you have a lot of issues, and it's not easy. So of course, as you said it, in other countries in South America, even in Asia, in Europe, that have also living cities, this is very complicated.
Yeah, left driving car, right driving cars are completely different, so on. And curiously, today I was having lunch. I read that they were looking the way the ants move, and they sign each other without shocking. And this technology could be using with self-driving cars in a way that they would communicate with each other and kind of self-regulate their own speed. It's another complex concept, but that adds to this equation.
Exactly. This is why it is so complicated, because we believe that it's very easy to drive, but it's far more complicated than we could think it. It's for an algorithm, it's much more complicated to drive than to beat the smartest guy on chess. So you see.
And I remember one time the guy from Embraer said we're probably going to see the self-driving plane well before the self-driving car, because it's a much simpler process to deal with. In fact, most of the planes already do most of the traveling by themselves. The pilots do supervision in smaller case, but driving the car is actually a big challenge. Hubert, it was very good talking to you. It's exciting what you are doing. As I said, I've downloaded the 2 PDFs, the notebook and the study, but it was late yesterday night. I just browsed it, so I'm going to look more in deep to the concept. But it was a very good having you here, good examples, and thanks for your participation. Very good.
Thanks, Marco. Thanks for your invitation. It was great to be here.
Thank you. Tim, before we end the event, there were a few topics I would like to cover and some of the things we are going to have tonight. So I'm going to start the screen where I stopped. I mentioned that we have a team in H3I, but we also have some people who are known in Brazil by their knowledge on the topic. And this is part of what you call the notable, the team. It's an extended team. I'm proud to be part of this team with several colleagues that worked with me from IBM, and there are people here from very different backgrounds, from Marcelo Taz to lawyers, physicians, engineers. So there's all sort of teams. It's a very diverse team, but it's very good to be part of this group. I was talking about the committees, and I lead the innovation committee. It's one of the oldest. It's now 2 years old, and we've done a number of things. And today, with the privacy, ethics, and government, and the AI in education committee, we are helping with IBIA, the Brazilian AI strategy that H3AI is participating. H3I is also known for the events, and this is one of the events, the one that you are watching. But we have done a few events this year. This is the AI Experience in September, and we are going to still have the AI Journey, and the H3AI Awards are the 2 next events. But as you can see here, we've done a number of events this year, and we still have another 2 days in the AI experience. A lot of things to come, as I'm going to show in a few minutes. You can be our sponsor. You can sponsor some of these events. So if you're interested, you can get in contact as part of sponsoring an event. You get access to the list of participants. You can have your brand exposed to a very qualified public. So if you're interested, contact us in terms of being our sponsor. I would like one more time to thank our sponsors, H2O, Suzano, Semantics, EducaCross, and FIA ProInfo. We already had the speech from Urban Beroshi. A few other things that are available for you if you're interested in. We have the glossary of terms for HAI, and there is more than 30 videos that you can download. It's mostly short videos from 4 to 8 minutes, and this is available and cover the main topics when you talk about AI. You can see videos explaining what is data lakes, big data, NLP, IoT, machine learning. So many of these terms, you can learn what they mean with a very short video. It's recorded by the extended team, the notables, as we talked about. You can also download a few ebooks. There is this Demystifying Machine Learning. This book was organized by the Machine Learning Committee. And there is an ebook that we launched last year as part of the Innovation Committee, the How to Implement AI in Your Enterprise. It's a very interesting book. I've wrote a few chapters of this book myself, and you can download both of them in the link. There is probably a link in the YouTube video. You can access the H2AI site to have access to the ebooks. These are many reasons why I recommend you to associate. It's a very reasonable fee for what you get, and you help promote the use of AI in Brazil. Talking a bit about what we are going to have at the end of the day. So at 7 p.m., it's our last presentation of the day. We are going to have Brent Barrow, the Director of Strategic Products, Knowledge Mobilization for CIFAR. CIFAR is the Canadian Institute for Artificial Intelligence in Canada. They are working with a few institutes, with 3 institutes in Canada, in developing a pan-Canadian AI strategy. And they're going to be talking about AI changing how we work and live with experience from Canada. So we had a bit of smart cities in the afternoon. And then at 7 p.m., we are going to have Brent talking about experiences from Canada. Tim, it was a pleasure to have you here. I hope to see you again at 7 p.m. For the rest of the day. And we are going to have the drawing at 7 p.m. So be here. It's going to be an important thing at the end of the 7 p.m. presentation. Thank you all.